Well, I want to give everyone a really warm greeting here from Costa Rica. My name is Amanda Wendt. I'm a professor at Earth University, and I am delighted to be the content moderator of this session. And just really excited to hear what our two presenters from McGill University are here to tell us about their work with the SDGs this evening. Their presentation is entitled Students Leading the Way in SDG Engagement. And we have Karen Oberer. She is the Sustainability Officer at McGill University, and she has taught and studied and worked at McGill for over 15 years. She has a PhD in English Literature and is currently completing an online Master's in Environmental Practice at Royal Roads University in British Columbia. And she's involved with the Sustainability Office, which includes monitoring sustainability achievements and reporting them to internal and external parties, including the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability of Higher Education. And she's an avid birder, and that's really close to my heart as well. So welcome, Karen. And then we also have Geneva Yang, and I'm really pleased to present Geneva as the SDG intern at McGill University at the Office of Sustainability. And Geneva is in her last year of her undergraduate degree at McGill, pursuing joint honors in international development and psychology. She's the SDG campus coordinator at McGill and an intern at the McGill Office of Sustainability. She's passionate about sustainable development and founded the McGill SDG Student Hub, which has initiated and organized multiple student engagement events. And that's what part of what we'll be hearing about this evening. So I just wanted to mention, as after I give the short introduction, that we have the chat available at any time during the event, and also the Q&A function. And then there will be an interactive piece of the presentation. And during that, if you'd like to request to have your microphone or camera activated, you can just go ahead and click on that, and I'll let you into the event with your microphone and camera activated, okay? There will be an interactive portion, which includes a Jamboard, and I'll go ahead and share that link in the chat now, and then again closer to that. So without any further wait, we'll go ahead and turn the mic over to Karen for the presentation. Thank you all for attending this session.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. It's great to be here. Nice to see people from all over the world. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. This is it. All right. So hopefully you can all see my screen right now. Okay. So as Amanda said, the presentation is entitled Students Leading the Way in SDG Engagement. I wanted to start with a land acknowledgement. So McGill University, where I'm not on campus right now, but the university where I work is on land which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst Indigenous peoples, including the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe nations. We acknowledge and thank the diverse Indigenous people whose footsteps have marked this territory on which peoples of the world now gather. So I'll just go over the quick 3-session objectives. So the first one is to learn about McGill's efforts to engage students in the SDGs. And the second is to reflect on methods to engage students in the SDGs, hopefully at your own institution. So to give you some ideas about how you can do similar activities at your home institutions, and then also to develop a kind of preliminary working plan to implement SDG student engagement activities at your own institutions. Just to note that the presentation today most closely aligns with SDG 4, quality education, and specifically target 4.7, education for sustainable development and global citizenship. And again, here is the breakdown of the presentation. So the first section is called SDG Engagement at McGill. That will be mostly me. And so the first part of the presentation may be of more interest to faculty and staff looking to develop student engagement activities in the SDGs. And the second part that Geneva is going to be focusing on, SDG Week 2021, and then the Undergraduate SDG Student Guide, should be of interest to everyone, staff, students, and faculty. So I'm hoping that, that there's something for everyone in this presentation. Some quick facts about McGill University. We have 3 campuses. We're located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And we're not far from the Vermont border, I guess, is maybe if people are more familiar with U.S. geography. We are a public doctoral research university, and we have about 40,000 students, undergraduate and graduate, more than 1,000 faculty members as well, and 300 buildings, more than 300 buildings too. So we're a large university, a large research university, I should say. A little bit about my office. My office is the McGill Office of Sustainability. We have 3 main areas of oversight, although the office is involved in a lot more than just these 3 things. But the main 3 areas of oversight is stewardship of the Sustainability Projects Fund, which is a fund that's valued at more than $1 million per year. It's the largest fund of its kind in Canada. And it provides seed funding to faculty, staff, and students interested in developing sustainability projects on campus. So it's an exciting part of our portfolio. We also oversee the implementation of the climate and sustainability strategy. The latest one was released in December 2020. So we monitor, we've drafted that, and we monitor its progress over time. And finally, we also provide subject matter expertise through engagement programs. So for example, we have a sustainability ambassadors program for students. We have a staff garden program for staff and faculty. We have a workplace certification program. So we run lots of engagement programs as well. So that's just to give you a sense of where our office is situated within the university. Okay, and over the past few years, we've been more and more engaged in areas of governance and academics as opposed to operations. I think historically we've been more affiliated with facilities and seeing through projects on the facility side of things. But we've been moving more into the areas of academics, and that's kind of where our involvement with the SDGs come from. And so just to give a brief context on our practices so far, or sort of our involvement in the SDG so far as the Office of Sustainability. Well, not just the Office of Sustainability, I should say. It's the first point is the McGill Sustainability Systems Initiative. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that on the next slide, but that group was an early proponent of the SDGs on campus. And then, so I will, like I say, I'll talk a bit more about them next. We also oversee, at least Moose, my office, oversees SDG reporting. So we report through STARS, that program of ASHE, the Sustainability Tracking, Assessment and Rating System, yes. So we report on SDGs through them, and we also report, we were developing a report for release this fall as well. And the third point is the SDG Community of Practice, which was a pilot project that McGill was involved in the spring and summer of 2021. It was a group of 6 universities that had staff, student, and faculty representatives. And those universities were Georgia Tech, Tech de Monterey, and the universities of Edinburgh, Geneva, and Cape Town. And that Community of Practice sort of hosted webinars and on topics related to student engagement in the SDGs, and also in best practices on how to teach the SDGs. So that's another area where we've been involved in the SDGs. And finally, McGill is, of course, a member institution of the UGC, University Global Coalition, and of course is a supporting partner of this annual gathering, and a member of SDSN Canada's Sustainable Development Solutions Network. And just to see, just to expand a bit more on the MSSI, it is a research group that was founded, well, I should say, it's not just a research group, it's a group that was founded in 2016 to bring together researchers who all work on sustainability. So it's a cross-disciplinary network of sustainability researchers, and it provides opportunities for researchers from different disciplines to co-design projects that address complex issues from different perspectives. And I just wanted to draw your attention to the Sustainability Collaboration Dashboard that the MSSI created. It's a dashboard where people can search for faculty members by their name, by the faculty in which they work, their research area, and by SDG. So if you want, if at least within McGill, if there's a particular SDG that a researcher works on, another researcher can find them based on that that option within the dashboard. Okay. And finally, I just want to say a word about the Sustainable Development Solutions Network. They run this program, which some of you may be familiar with, called the SDG Students Program. It's a network of student hubs, and Geneva, as you'll find out, was the coordinator at McGill for the McGill SDG Student Hub. So much of the student engagement in the SDGs has been supported by this program, by the SDSN Youth SDG Students Program. In the fall of 2019, McGill hired a first SDG hub coordinator as an intern to recruit students and hold regular hub meetings and to promote the SDGs during engagement activities. The goal of the hub is to connect existing student groups in order to engage and educate students on the SDGs. So one of the things that the 2019 coordinator did was to map existing SDG group or existing student groups to specific SDGs. So we have this chart, this Excel spreadsheet that mapped the groups, and they're sort of listed their missions, and identified which SDGs they were most closely aligned. So that was very helpful in for the hub to find future members and collaborators for future projects. So I do recommend that SDSN members look into the hub program. One of the nice things about it is that coordinators receive 2 months of online training before starting their role as the SDG hub coordinator. However, if students aren't involved with SDSN, an SDG coordinator position could be a great intern opportunity for one or more students. So it's something that you could embed in another unit without being part of that program. And we are lucky at McGill that the upper administration has been extremely supportive of the university's engagement with the SDGs, especially student engagement. So that's one thing that we are very glad to have at our university. So I will go into the first brainstorming activity. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here and switch over to the Jamboard, the link to which Amanda posted. Let me just do this. And I will go back in, window, nope, Chrome tab. Oh, there we go. So hopefully you should be able to see this. Is my screen sharing? Can Amanda, you tell me?
I am not seeing the Jamboard screen right now.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I forgot to click share. There we go. You should see it now.
Yep, it's coming in now. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So, right. So these are questions that that you can brainstorm on and think about. I will also take questions as well if anyone has them, but I just want to take a few minutes for you to think about which units, departments, or faculties already engage with SDGs at your institution. Is there work already being done on the SDGs at your institution? If so, you can just use the sticky note function here. I hope you can see my cursor. I'm just circling it here. This is the sticky note function. So you just click on that and you can write a note and it will appear on the board. That's one question. And the other is which units, people, student groups, etc., might you ask to help organize SDG engagement activities for students? So I'll give you a few minutes to think about that. Basically, yeah, it's just to brainstorm and to think of ways that you could, develop the resources that are already existing at your university. So I see the International Education Office for units that you might ask to help organize activities, and then the Atlanta Global Studies Center. The local RCE, Regional Center of Expertise. Awesome. Are there any questions if anyone wants to unmute and ask a question at this point? Right, DEI offices, so diversity, equity, and inclusion offices. That's a good one. So, oh, go ahead.
Karen, I have some people in the queue, so I'm going to go ahead and activate their cameras and microphones. Go ahead. Leah, did you have a question?
I did. I was curious because we've been working to try to engage our student university. And I've been finding that students are very, very familiar with it's a hard disconnect. They're very familiar with the content of the Sustainable Development Goals, but don't realize that they're Sustainable Development Goals, if that makes sense. Like they care about equity, they care about hunger, but they're not making the connection to the Sustainable Development Goals in the UN process. So I'm wondering about how you've been overcoming, or if you're seeing similar sorts of disconnects in your university and how you're overcoming that.
That's a great question. I mean, for us, really, that might be a better question for Geneva. I don't know if you can answer that, since you're the one who deals more with students and student groups. Is that something you can field, Geneva?
Yeah, for sure. So I think, as you have said, McGill students, a lot of them are really knowledgeable about the SDGs and the content. The thing is, they don't know about the SDGs themselves. So that's why, like, we have organized activities such as the McGill SDG Week, and we have published resources like the student guide to help students really see how their study and interests really fit in this framework. Because this is a really useful framework to sort of mobilize students and faculty doing research in all kinds of different areas and disciplines, and really unite them under a single framework that is really comprehensive and sort of very clear in terms of what we want to achieve. So I think like student engagement is like a really key part of like sort of promoting the idea of SDG and how do you orient all these diverse kinds of studies under this single framework, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Maybe, sorry, I think we should maybe, I know we have other questions, but I know as I figured, I'm talking too much and we need to go on with the presentation. So I'm sorry to cut off the questions, but do keep them in mind. We will have a Q&A hopefully at the end. And if we don't get to your questions, we will definitely provide our emails so you can send them to us afterwards. Is that all right, Amanda, if we just move on?
Yeah, that's fine. We have a question in the chat, and I'll make sure and keep track of it, and we'll get back to that when we have time at the end or after the presentation.
Perfect. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then go back to the presentation. And then Geneva will continue. Let me just see. Sorry. Yeah, okay, perfect. I think should be it now. Are you seeing the presentation again?
Yep.
Yes, yes.
Perfect.
So hi, everyone. I am Geneva. Thank you for the introduction, Amanda. And I am a current student at McGill. As well, I am the founder and president of the McGill SDG Student Hub. So the mission of the hub is basically really to address the question proposed by Leah. Our mission is to organize educational, solution-based fundraising and volunteer events to help students learn about, engage with, and take actions on the SDGs. So really to orient their studies, their work, using the framework of the SDGs. And our vision is to build a close-knit community of students from different disciplines who are passionate about the SDGs and bring about change. And throughout the past year, we organized a lot of different activities to better promote and raise awareness on the SDGs. And one of the major ones is the SDG Week in 2021. So we initiated and spearheaded this event in collaboration with 10 other student groups whom we have reached out to. So the goal of this SDG Week is really to raise awareness on the importance of the SDGs in addressing all of these world sustainability challenges on campus, so for students and faculty members. So this is an SDG week. So each day, for 5 days, we had 5 different events. So 1 event per day. We have 5 events in total. So basically, we broke down the 17 SDGs into 5 thematic groups. So in the first group, we have SDG 1, which is no poverty, 2, zero hunger, 3, which is good health and well-being, 6, which is clean water and sanitation, So this, we sort of categorize them as basic needs. And we also have a group on green energy transition and the environment, a group on economic and political development, which includes 8, 9, which are economic, 16, 17, which are more on the political side of things. And then the fourth group is actually reduce inequalities in education. So women in STEM. And finally, we have a group on sustainable cities, which includes sustainable cities and communities, as well as responsible consumption and production. Yeah.
So, sorry, should I just go through each slide, Geneva, or is that your summary?
Yeah, I can just briefly go through each slide.
Okay, perfect.
So on day one, we sort of have a panel discussion event, inviting 3 speakers to talk about the basic needs of indigenous communities on Turtle Island, which is the indigenous term for North America. And we basically sort of have this discussion surrounding this topic, but then we tie it to the 4 SDGs of this day. And then if you go to the next slide, the topic on day 2 is actually, can we ever achieve 100% green energy? Which again is related to all 4 of the SDGs in that category. And we invited 4 McGill speakers who specialize in that area to offer different perspectives, the social perspective, economic perspective, as well as the environmental and technical perspective. And then on day 3, we actually had a movie screening and discussion event to sort of diversify the event format. We watched the movie Even the Rain, where a crew of Spanish film director arrived in Peru to shoot a film about the conquest of Christopher Columbus, which simultaneously was entangled in the water crisis during that time in Peru. And then day 4, it was actually on the day of International Day for Women and Girls in STEM. So we thought that it ties really nicely into the 3 SDGs, reduce inequalities, gender equality, and then reduce quality education. And finally, on day 5, we had another panel discussion on the topic of the future of sustainable cities. So actually preceding, before the actual SDG week took place, we organized a 51-day social media campaign to educate students on what the SDGs are. So for each SDG, we had 3 posts on Instagram. Post 1 is to learn about the SDGs, where we sort of listed all of the targets for that SDG, as well as some fun facts. For the second post, it was on the topic of engaging with the SDGs. We used some quotes, as well as some figures to deepen the students' interest in the SDG and to tell them why the SDG is important. And finally, on part 3, we offer different ways people can take action on that specific SDG. So some best practices, just to briefly cover them on organizing an SDG week. I think one of the really important one is social media, which can be used as a very key engagement tool for the SDGs, especially now that a lot of university activities are still online. They can make very complex information more accessible. They can streamline communication and also enable the message to reach a large audience if your account has a large number of followers. And you can also share it on your personal accounts. As well, the social media can be used for event promotion and to spread awareness about certain topics or initiatives. And if we go to the next slide. Another sort of best practice we use a lot when we are organizing our events is to organize education events or workshops that enable students to learn more about sustainability, as well as specific topics on the Sustainable Development Goals. This can help students develop their knowledge in a non-academic setting. Also, the format of the event can be twisted to make it more informal and to integrate non-conventional approach, like an open discussion or speaker lectures. So yeah, it really can help students learn more about the SDGs, as well as connecting with people who are also attending the event, organizing a networking session after the event to sort of really get to know each other. And finally, external collaboration is a really key part. So organizing an SDG week was actually come up in the process of brainstorming with all of my team members at the SDG Student Hub. So it's really a bottom-up event. But this, I think it's not just enough. You want to reach as many people as possible. And this can be realized through liaising and reaching out to different external, clubs, external speakers to ask them to help share the events and to collaborate to organize the events. So this has a lot of advantages. One of them is you can do problem solving and have different perspectives and ideas. You can establish connections with other clubs so that in the future, other events, you can also reach out to connect and collaborate with them because you already have that connection. Thirdly, you can also expand the reach of the event, obviously. And finally, you can offer more channels to contact different speakers. Yeah, so in the future, if we were to organize the SDG week, well, we are going to organize the SDG week again this year, or actually next year, next semester from February 7th to 11th, which actually corresponds to the Canadian International Development Week. We are going to diversify the event formats. We want to include some event formats like design jams, hackathons, as well as scaled down Model UN kind of event that let the students engage more with the content and not just, listen to speakers talking about the subject, which is obviously very important, and we are also going to keep them. But we also want to incorporate formats that are more interactive. We are also going to have an introductory workshop to the SDGs at the beginning of the week, so that for students who are less familiar with the concept, you can learn about the origins, features, as well as some of the targets and indicators, which I have also organized in the past, but we will organize again at the beginning of the week. And we are going to better incorporate social media in our promotion, as well as the raising awareness aspect on the SDGs. And we are thinking of collaborating with more than 10 student groups to even reach our event to more people.
So I was going to do another brainstorming activity. I think in the interest of time, because I know I am seeing some questions come in and I want to have time to get to them. I will just say that these are some questions to help you help prompt you think about what you might do at your own institutions. So this question would be for staff, students, and faculty. So if you were to organize an SDG week at your institution, what types of events would you organize? Or if you're a student, which types of events would you be interested in attending? So would you attend a hackathon or something maybe more social and informal than an educational event, that kind of thing. So there's that question, and you can certainly fill out this on the Jamboard. It's slide 2 on the Jamboard. I'm not going to give a specific time to it, just as I say, because we are running a little behind our schedule. Also, just to think about how would you structure SDG Week at your own institution, and which communications platforms would be the best means to reach your students, which social media ones, or if you're using, newsletters, sustainability newsletters or institutional newsletters, that kind of thing. So, Geneva, I'm going to get you to continue to talk about the undergraduate SDG student guide.
For sure. Actually, before I do that, one last thing I would like to talk about the SDG week is actually institutional support. I think having this bottom-up initiative is very important because it shows that it's the students who are organizing it, it's the students who are really want other students to learn more about it rather than a top-down imposed sort of manner. But I do think that institutional support is very important. So after you have that bottom-up initiative that is trying to organize these events, trying to reach out to other speakers, you have that institutional support of in terms of promoting, central communication, etc. It would be really helpful in terms of promoting the event as well as increasing the scale of the event to not just, a minor club thing, but rather a campus-wide thing. I think it's really important.
Yeah, that's a great point, Geneva. And maybe when we get to the Q&A section, you can talk a bit more about how you do that. How have you been trying to gather more institutional support? I mean, I can help you with those answers, but that's a great question that our audience might be interested in hearing more about.
Yeah, so now I'm going to move on to the second sort of student engagement tool, which is the Undergraduate SDG Student Guide 2021 edition. So the purpose of this guide is really, we initiated this project to help undergraduate students better engage with the courses, student groups, and researchers at McGill using the SDG framework. So the reason, first of all, disclaimer, the reason why we chose just to incorporate undergraduate students is because of limited resources and capacity. We have a lot of graduate programs. If we include all of them, it would just be too much and also less focused. So we decided to just focus on undergraduate for this edition. So in this guide, what you will see is, first of all, a general background on the SDGs. And then we have 1 page per SDG. And on that SDG, you are going to see 3 to 6 key targets. You're going to see a list of 10 undergraduate courses from as diverse as many disciplines or faculties as possible, because we want, one of the goals of this guide is really to show that not just international development or political science has a say in sustainable development goals, but rather engineering, computer science, really like everything, chemistry is relevant for the sustainable development goals. And then we have a list of 5 student groups, to join on campus, to better engage with the SDGs, as well as 5 researchers people can reach out to learn more about McGill researchers' work and to maybe, work in their lab. Yeah, so next page. So yeah, so the origin of the idea to have this guide is really from a discussion I had with the SDG coordinator at the University of Manitoba. So they were sort of thinking about doing it, and they had a sort of different version. They were more focusing on the student initiatives, whereas for us, we also wanted to incorporate the courses as well as the researchers. So yeah, we basically, the sort of basic methodology is we reviewed some of the existing SDG mapping work conducted at McGill, for example, the MSSI dashboard Karen previously mentioned, as well as the student group mapping. So the MSSI dashboard really provided a great resource when I was mapping the professors and their work in relation to the SDGs, rather than checking out their bio one by one. And yeah, after I sort of compiled all of these resources, I shared them with the SDG Hub members, as well as the staff from the Office of Sustainability and MSSI to sort of see what potential other courses or sections can be added or changed. And some more about the data collection methodology. So for the courses, I selected using the keyword searches from the McGill e-calendar, which is basically a list of every single course at McGill. And then I manually reviewed them. And then, yeah, I chose the courses from as many different programs as possible. For the researchers, mainly it was from MSSI dashboard, but I also did some of them through manual research, manual review, looking at their bio and finding keywords and key themes. And finally, student groups. Again, it was mainly based on previous mapping work done by the previous SDG coordinator, as well as I also added a few other ones.
Just want to jump in and say that the keywords the keywords you found from the Elsevier site, right? They have a list. There's a link there. I think it got cut off, but there's they have a list of keywords that you can use to search for SDG related topics.
Yeah. So the Elsevier keywords is really a great resource because they have a lot of keywords per SDG. Yeah. So here are, again, some examples of the actual pages in the undergraduate SDG guide. As you can see, key targets, a list of courses, the student groups, which has hyperlinks embedded. So when you click on it, you basically go to their Facebook page, and then a list of researchers and their affiliated faculty. So yeah, in the conclusion, sort of we want to convey this message that young people are really important and central in tackling future sustainable development challenges, and that we want to encourage students to use their creativity, their critical thinking, entrepreneurship, and self-awareness to really contribute to the SDGs and to orient their studies using the framework of the SDG to see how they can contribute to the SDGs, and maybe choose some electives if they don't think they're directly contributing, to learn more about the SDGs. As well, it illustrates that students can educate themselves to address sustainability challenges, as well as participating in decision-making processes and pushing for systemic changes. Yeah, so for my future plan, we are thinking of updating the SDG student guide in 2022. We are also thinking of compiling an SDG career guide that would be sort of similar to the format done like this guide, sort of a page on each SDG. And then there would be, NGOs in Canada, and then, some job titles, and as well as some think tanks and other career resources related to that particular SDG. So yeah, basically that's pretty much it.
Great. Thanks so much, Geneva. That's a great overview of these two really wonderful projects that you've led over the past year. I did have another brainstorming activity. I do want to leave time for questions, though. I have, as I think it says in the chat, I've prepared a handout with all of these prompts in them. So if you want them, you can please put your email in the chat, and we can send it out to you. So it's basically the same prompts with a bit more information, and then a link to all the resources we've mentioned here. So I do want to get to questions. I know I saw a few. Does anyone want to, well, maybe, yeah, does anyone want to unmute and we can chat? Maybe I'll unshare my screen.
We have a few questions in the chat function. So the first was from Sam. I'm just looking for your question here, who asked, if you had unlimited resources, where would you invest them to best support student engagement for the SDGs?
That's a really good question. I mean, in terms of resourcing, this is a question I've been thinking a lot about, because, we are, like I say, we're very lucky to have institutional support at our university. I would say the one thing that you do, I think would be essential in Geneva, you can agree or disagree with me if you like, but you do need at least one coordinator, one person to help coordinate, one staff member to help coordinate the student groups. So certainly money for a position, which unit, I'm not sure. Like, someone had mentioned international education. It could be in, depending on how your institution is set up, there could be embedded within one of the faculties, or perhaps in, like in my office, where the Office of Sustainability. So right now, I'm sort of the resource person who's been working with Geneva and facilitating connections within the university. So what would you say, Geneva? Would that be similar to what you'd say as well?
I think like maybe if we really have unlimited resources, I think it's really like giving money to all those student clubs that are organizing these sustainability events on their own, so that we are really rewarding people who are sort of initiating these sustainability events and like resources on their own, and maybe not just through a central person. Although it would also be good to have a person to coordinate a lot of things with.
Great.
Okay, I think we have a time for another question or two. So we will go to this one from Vincent. What are the social media strategies you found most effective in promoting your activities?
So I guess it really depends on your institution. So at McGill, Facebook and Instagram are mostly used by a lot of, almost, I would say most students. So we would really, when we are organizing social media campaigns, it would be on Instagram. So really having that graphic design skills would be really valuable, like, using Canva and stuff to create these appealing and engaging social media graphics, as well as stories. So stories that has, quizzes that are interactive. When students are, browsing through their stories, they can just do the quick quiz and then see, oh, I got it wrong. So like, because students have really short attention spans when they're, not studying. So that's really a great way to sort of prime them on sustainability. And then when we are promoting events, it's mainly through Facebook. Facebook events, people can just click interested, going. But other institutions might be more, operating on WhatsApp or Discord. So it really depends.
Thank you so much. And then we have a question here from Wendy. Are you planning to take these extracurricular activities and mainstream into curriculum, like the SDG week, for example?
That's a great question. I mean, as I said, our office is sort of going more and more into the academic side of sustainability. Our office is actually hiring a sustainability officer specifically for academic programming, well, helping with academics, incorporating sustainability more into the curriculum. So certainly I think we can learn a lot from from Geneva and the student hubs initiatives that they've done. And yeah, certainly, I mean, there's a lot of crossover between the curricular and the extracurricular, I think, in what Geneva's done. So yeah, that's something we do have in mind. We haven't had a dedicated person to focus on sustainability and academics yet. So it's going to be kind of a learning experience and seeing how that person fares and how that person can work with faculty to, to try to encourage not just the SDGs, but sustainability in general into academics in a more sustained and focused way.
Excellent, thank you. And I think we have just time for one more question. And if you have any other questions that we can't get to right now, please go ahead and write them in the Q&A or the chat, and I'll go ahead and copy those and make sure that those get answered by the panelists and that email back to you. So we have from Amber, what did you find the greatest challenge was when it came to engagement with the students as they implement behaviors towards the SDGs?
Maybe I can
You
go
should
over.
go, Geneva.
So we actually organized a Zero Plastic Waste Week event in March, this March. And so basically there's an announcement. So basically it was like a week-long campaign on social media. As well, we organized a workshop sort of asking people who adopt a zero plastic waste lifestyle to share what are their tips and greatest barriers. And we really found that it's really difficult to implement these daily sustainability sort of practices in our everyday life. And it's totally understandable because people are already investing so much resources and effort in their work and study. So people, when they want to take an extra step to live sustainably, it's really hard and really effortful. You have to really push yourself to do that. So one strategy that came up is really to take it one step at a time. Don't set the bar too high, set a low bar and then improve gradually. So don't, say, I'm going to become vegetarian overnight. It's not quite possible, like normally speaking for most people.
Great, thank you so much. I think that's a really good advice. Well, we have run out of time. I just want to thank our panelists, Karen and Geneva, for sharing your experiences at McGill University, and for all of you who have attended this session and all of your great questions. If you have any other ones, you can let us know. And I think we need to move on to our next event here at the gathering. Thank you all for coming again, and thank you, panelists. Have a wonderful rest of the gathering.
Thanks, Amanda. You've been great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Amanda.
Bye.